table. Them's my panties. Who took their panties off at my dinner party? Unless dolphins ate my brain, I'm not sure why I would gossip to Stephanie Harris. Come after me, and flames will shoot out of my nostrils.
Well, she is the Real Housewife of Toronto. Everyone loves to hate, but we just love her. Please welcome Cara Alloway to What She Said. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Kate.
So how do you like being the woman everyone loves to hate?
Well, you know what? Here's what I say. I say, first of all, am I the villain or am I the protagonist? I'm not sure which category you put me in. But if I am the villain, I hark back to Mean Girls. Who do you remember from Mean Girls? Regina George. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, that's right. Caddy was another character, too. But everyone remembers Regina George. So
yeah, and who would you have rather been, Scarlett O'Hara or Melanie, right?
100%.
Exactly. So, but I've looked at some of the haters' comments about you and your family on social media.
Yes.
How are you all coping with that?
You know what? Here's the thing. It's really funny, actually. Leanne Locken, who is one of the Real Housewives of Dallas, reached out to me, and she and I have developed a friendship. And originally what I was doing is I was having my publicist delete them. I said, I don't want that kind of negativity up there. And if they get really bad, I do delete them because I don't want profanity or any attacks on my children up there. But what she said is, Cara, 99% of the time, if you respond to the haters with a positive voice, it takes them right down. Yeah. Failing that, then I will also sometimes I'll choose the silent approach because hate needs soil to grow.
Right.
So it's really interesting. I was at a fundraiser for a charity that I'm really passionate about, Kids, Cops, and Computers. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, the children and their teachers were there, and they were asking me about that. And I said, how do you overcome hate? Overcome hate with positivity. Don't give hate soil to grow in.
Absolutely. Now, a National Post article came out this week saying, and I quote, Alloway exposing fellow housewife Joan Kelly Walker's apparent panty indiscretion was a classic power play. But the real power play by Alloway wasn't to usurp Walker. It was to gain social and economic power by being the most entertaining and talked about housewife of the season. And the art of gossip proves knowledge is power. What do you think of that?
Well, I always believe that knowledge is power. I always believe education is power. I think that gossip is for idle minds. I think that there's a difference between having a voice and calling out behavior that you say is unacceptable. I am not a gossip. I have way too much going on in my life to have time to be a gossip.
Right.
But I do have a voice, and I think in having a voice, it's really interesting. I was reading a book recently about lying, and they said that people lie to you anywhere from 10 to 200 times a day, whether it's in advertisement, whether it's the government, whether it's friends. And there's something that erodes our social fabric when we lie to people because it's easier to sort of, fudge things and push them aside and whatnot. I call people on their behavior. I say what I feel, and it gets me in trouble sometimes, but it is who I am.
Yes, my children say I have no filter.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
So they would relate to that. Now, the article also said that in the aftermath of this season, it seems one of the power couples is experiencing marital strife over the wife's newfound prominence. Do you know who that is?
I don't, and I can't tell you how many phone calls I have received about that saying, who is it? I don't. I haven't had a lot of communication with my fellow castmates since we stopped filming, so I'm not really in touch with what's going on, but I haven't heard any rumblings of that, and I don't know about that. I don't know where that came from.
And they still haven't confirmed whether a second season is going?
No, that hasn't been confirmed yet.
If it does, are you in?
I'm up for anything.
That's great. So when did you realize that you were being labeled the villain? And was it because the rest of the women, they either weren't talking about you or they were talking about not talking about you?
Right, exactly. Well, I realized that there was definitely something wrong the episode where we had the lunch at Patria at the restaurant.
Oh, the money on the table?
Right. When I came back and I saw the money on the table and it just caught my eye, and I can remember saying, why is there money on the table? And I had one of those high school cafeteria moments where I looked around and everybody was laughing, going, ha, 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 ha. Well, we bet against you. And I just sort of thought, wow. And then that's when I came up with my don't bet against Cara Alloway.
Yeah, absolutely not. Now, you mentioned that you were friends with some Real Housewives from other franchises. Your former roommate, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what advice did they give you before filming? Any?
Well, here's the thing. No. So Kyle Umansky from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, we lived together over 20 years ago. And unfortunately, when we were filming, she was also doing Celebrity Apprentice. So Kyle didn't have a lot of time for me. So post-filming, I was able to catch up with her. And she said, oh, wow, Kara, you were the lightning rod. She said, we also call that the dummy in technical terms. And I said, really? And she said, there's one every episode. And she said, but I hope you took it and owned it and used it. And I said, absolutely. I use this as a platform for a lot of things that, like I said, a lot of people don't like to hear the hard truth and whatnot. But, there is something to be said for what happens. What are the after effects when you do drink to incredible excesses? How do you be accountable for your behavior? Things like that. Also, if I was used as a lightning rod for the fat shaming, and I did not fat shame anybody, but that's not, the edit isn't for me to discuss. But if I was the lightning rod for that, to bring attention to that, great, absolutely, because it isn't acceptable. It shouldn't happen. It shouldn't go on. So I'm okay.
Go. So now let's talk a little about some of the charity work you're involved in. You mentioned Kids, Cops, and Computers.
Yes.
And you're currently working on a fundraiser for You for Change. What's that?
You for Change is a program for at-risk inner-city youth who have finished high school but might not be eligible for a university education because of finances or any other reasons. So it's a mentorship program in the areas of DJing, film, photography, and fashion design. And it's incredible to see. Oh, it's great. It's incredible to see these kids. There was this one girl who makes these scarves, and she's taken pictures of some iconic Toronto buildings and put the prints onto scarves. And they're amazing. So what they come up with, the creativity there, all of that, it's incredible. And it's a charity. It's my pet charity.
And you're probably getting some good samples from that.
Great
to be
ahead of the pack.
Now, you're working on a few projects south of the border, producing a reality show, pitching a script for a feel-good movie, and also writing a book about female relationships. Sounds like you're going to have a busy summer.
I'm going to have a very busy summer. I don't know how I'm going to do it all, but it's okay.
So can you tell us anything about the reality show that you're doing down there?
I can't say too much about it, except that, and I'm not trying to be, one of these clandestine people now. It's an area that I'm very passionate about, and it's something that's not represented on television at this time. But it is going to be a very positive, with organic conflict, and it's going to be fun, and stay tuned.
So what about the book about female relationships? Are you going to be basing it on the Housewives experience?
Some of it. What I find is interesting is people aren't really quick to speak about female relationships and breakups in female relationships and whatnot. It's kind of like the ugly stepsister of male-female relationships or interpersonal relationships. So I think there's a lot to be said there. And yeah, I did get a lot of material from the show. Come on, a hotbed.
Yeah, absolutely. You would. So let's do best and worst. What was the best part of the whole show?
The best part was the scenes I got to film with my mom, the scenes I filmed with my husband. Everybody loves my husband. I said to him, what is this? You come off the good guy. You're the voice of reason in all this.
Yeah,
his famous line was right near the beginning of the show, and I think it was the first episode. Does any of this really matter? And I said, oh, that's so Graham Alloway. He is the voice of reason to me.
But he also had a very nice moment with dagger in or dagger out.
You caught that. He's really subtle in how he gets his messages across.
Yeah, no, he is. And so that was the best part. The worst part?
The worst part is nobody likes to feel alienated. Nobody likes to feel like they're the nerd in high school that's left out. Nobody likes to feel that. And nobody likes to feel bad. We don't want to feel bad about ourselves. And that wasn't fun. In all honesty, it wasn't fun being in that position.
Did you actually form any genuine friendships during that whole time? Look at the smile. That's such a polite smile. If you could see it, and you will, because it'll be up on our social media, I will take that as a no. Well, thank you so much for joining us. You'll have to come back again. We absolutely hope to see a season 2 with you in it. And hopefully your party guests don't leave their panties behind this time around.
Here's hoping. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
This is What She Said. Stay with us.